How does a queue work? In order to understand the queue, you need to have basic understanding of array and a linked list, because queue uses array list or linked list internally under the hood. So you need to be understanding each of these topics. Both linked list or array list would work fine, however the implementation would be different. So let's begin by making our visualization of this queue. What happens when we're trying to add a new element in that queue? We need to structure it in a way that kind of keeps the order as first in. The first in part, that means we need to have some kind of structure to build on. So when we're trying to add element, we're gonna add element like this approach. We're adding here, then we're adding at top of it, then at the top of it. So every time we add a new element, we're gonna add at the top of that queue. And we are using term push. The term push is gonna be used when you're talking about queue and stack and deck as well. So you're gonna kind of be familiar with the term push. So when we're saying we're pushing a new element, then we're adding a new element at the top of the current element at that queue. So in our case we have three elements, and the last element is the blue. So if we want to add a new element here, we're gonna push at the top of that blue. What happens if we want to remove an element? Remember that we have a term first in, first out. So we need to find the first element that should be removed. The first element is 1 here, which is green. So we're gonna remove at the bottom. And the next element to be removed after the green is red, because that's the second element, and the third, and so on. So if we remove an element, we're gonna use a term pop. The pop is also a term being used with queue, stack, and deck, and that's how can we remove an element. So I'm just gonna repeat the visualization just one more time. For adding, we're gonna add a top here, we're gonna add a top, we're just gonna add a top, and if we're gonna remove, we're gonna move at bottom, bottom, bottom. That's the term first in, first out. That's how basically we add and remove elements from the queue. And there is also another operation that can be used in the queue, which is peek. What is peek? Peek is the next element to be popped. The next element to be popped is considered as peek. So it's just simple operation. We're just gonna look at the first element that should be popped, which is the first element. That's basically how a queue works. In order to understand how does it work with memory, we need to have understanding of linked list or an array list implementation. I highly recommend this video, which is based on Joe McClass channel, YouTube channel, and he's explaining the difference between array list and linked list in a very amazing animation. I highly recommend it. And that's basically how does it work in memory. That's basically based on the implementation of the low level internal queue. So if so whatever you're using implicitly internally in that queue, that's how the memory is being used. So it is either linked list or array list, and this YouTube video explaining